Welcome to our Life After Mac annual conference. Welcome to everyone who's attending this informative afternoon. I'm very pleased to introduce our next session, which is LinkedIn Behind the Scenes, and that will be featuring a chat by Brad Coughlin, who currently serves as the Talent Acquisition and Recruitment Strategist, working to enable McMaster's ability to attract and recruit diverse talent for all levels of the institution. Responsible for the delivery of best-in-class talent attraction and recruitment initiatives that support McMaster's strategy to cultivate human potential, embrace equity, build community partnerships, and champion an inclusive culture. He has over 12 years experience specializing in human resources and talent-focused programming across public and private sector organizations. Prior to working at McMaster, Brad provided consultation on a broad range of human resources and talent strategies as an HR strategic business partner in the nonprofit and corporate tech sector. Brad holds an honors Bachelor of Arts degree from McMaster and a Master's of Science with a specialization in human resources. So welcome, Brad, and thanks again for joining us at our conference today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. This is the second year I've done this, and I look forward to it every year. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'll turn it over to you now and look forward to hearing what you have to say this year. It's great to see you back from last year and hearing all the new things about LinkedIn behind the scenes.
Great. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen with everybody because I've prepared a little bit of a PowerPoint. So thank you very much. Yeah, so today for the next, I think we have about 40 minutes or so. Just would love to have a conversation with everybody around really the power of LinkedIn and how we can utilize LinkedIn as job seekers, and also how we use LinkedIn as an organization to recruit. I think it's really important for everyone to understand sort of both sides of LinkedIn. Now, you kind of got a little bit about me, so I won't spend too much time just introducing myself, but I have had a pretty interesting journey through HR. For the vast majority of my career, I've very much been more of a generalist, so focusing on all aspects of HR. And it wasn't until I came to McMaster that I really specialized in the talent space, really looking at how are we attracting, how are we recruiting, and how are we retaining sort of top talent? How are we partnering with organizations to look at the future potential of students and the future potential of those just trying to enter in the workforce? And one tool that we have at our disposal is LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn has roughly 700 million users globally. So it's got a huge audience that we can draw upon. But it also highlights the importance of ensuring that you are putting your authentic touch on your own LinkedIn. 700 million people I can access by a click. And so how do we build a profile that stands out? And that's sort of what we want to chat about today. And of course, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I believe there's a chat that you can throw it into. If you want to ask them out loud, I'd be more than happy to address them as well. So to start off, let's set the stage of some introductory tips to LinkedIn. I'd like to assume everyone here has heard of LinkedIn. You are all likely on LinkedIn in some capacity. But if you aren't, or if you are just starting your LinkedIn journey, put together some sort of introduction tips. And these are in no particular order, but I think it's really important to remember that LinkedIn is used very heavily by recruiters, very heavily by what are called sourcers. And sourcers are not magic yielding individuals. These are folks that really spend most of their time digging through LinkedIn to find future talent. They scour profiles regularly, using a lot of different tips that we're going to talk about today to find talent, to find folks that would like to invite to participate in a recruitment search that they have going on at their organization. And so you have to assume that if recruiters and sourcers and hiring managers are active on LinkedIn, you need to be active on LinkedIn. You need to put yourself out there to say, I'm looking for a career, whether it's a career change, whether it's your first career, or I'm looking to network. I'm looking to grow my professional network and really try to meet individuals like myself or who have similar interests. In the talent space, we have sort of two classifications of job seekers. So two classifications of individuals who would enter the workforce. We have active job seekers and passive job seekers. So active job seekers would be those individuals who are actively seeking work, whether it's on Indeed, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on a specific company's website. That makes up about 25% of the job seeking market, so a minority. The vast majority of people, about 75%, are what we refer to as passive job seekers. So these would be the individuals who are currently working, who have full-time jobs or are full-time students, and so aren't particularly looking for work, but are absolutely open if opportunities come their way. So if you think about yourself, you might have a job that you love, that you're not really looking, but if a friend or a colleague or someone on LinkedIn said, hey, we have this opportunity, take a look at it. Passive job seekers would be the individuals who would say, absolutely, I'm open to any type of discussion. And so because of that, just because you're not actively seeking work, you still have to keep an active profile. You should still have a profile that's up to date, that really sells your message and sells your story. A lot of organizations pay big money and spend a lot of time creating their career pages. Some of them are called life, like a life page. There's a tab called life. Some of them are just called career pages. They cost big money to maintain. And so it's this sort of window to an organization. If a company is spending a lot of time and effort and resources to maintain it, you are looking for work and you think, oh, look, I came across this job at company ABC. The first place you should do is go to their LinkedIn page. What does their career page say? What does their life page say? How are they articulating their values, their culture? How are they talking about the type of place it is to work there? What's their value proposition? And then you want to take that learning and infuse it into your resume, infuse it into your cover letter. The other thing to think about is LinkedIn is as much of a search engine as Google. At any given point, I can go on LinkedIn and search key topics and find thousands upon thousands, if not millions of profiles. So ensure that you're keeping, as I said, your profile up to date, because you're always searchable. I can find any one of you on LinkedIn at any given time. Okay, you want to make sure that your profile is professional. It's utilizing all of the functions of LinkedIn to their maximum capability. And we'll talk about a lot of that. Be proactive. Don't wait for someone to reach out to you. Follow profiles, follow influencers, follow companies, engage in conversation, use hashtags, a lot of these different functions. And of course, LinkedIn has put in a lot of new functionality lately where you can change your profile picture, very much like Facebook does, where you can add like an image or a logo. One of which is the open to work or open to new opportunities. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and indicate that and access that functionality. So I have a question for everybody. What do you think these all have in common? If we think about all these images on the screen, what do they really have in common? When I look at all of these, the first thing I think about is it's their branding. They all are ranked, these corporate logos anyway, are all ranked as the top brands in the world, or in the United States and most of the world. They're the most recognizable, the most powerful, the most influential brands out there. You know exactly what to expect in terms of quality, in terms of service. You know exactly who they are and what they do. You know almost everything about them. just by looking at their corporate logo. When you think about celebrities, Kim Kardashian, Lady Gaga, many of them, they built their fame on their brand, right? They did things to ensure that they were associated with a strong brand. And I think most celebrity would be like that. And so the learning here very much is, how does that translate to your brand? What is your brand? What is your brand as a job seeker? What is your brand as a person? What's your brand? You have to think about these things as you build an online presence. What story do you want to tell about yourself, right? So your profile is your brand. As a person who does a lot of searching on LinkedIn, what does it tell me about you? What can I find out about you just by looking at your page? It's your brand. Don't forget that, because your brand will be important as you build your career. You want to be associated with whatever brand that you personally build for yourself. So use your profile to build a brand. Know your audience. The one thing you really want to try to do is be specific, be intentional about what you're putting into your brand and onto your page. So it's something to think about as you go through your career pattern. If I know I want to go into HR, if I want to go into chemical engineering, if I want to be an astronaut, whatever it is that you think you want to aspire to do, you intentionally build a profile that leads you through that pathway. So for example, you're going to follow companies, or follow, on the bottom right here, you want to follow companies that are in the industry that you want to be in. You want to engage with hashtags that you want to be a part of. You want to engage in conversations with like-minded individuals. You want to join networks. So I'm a part of a whole bunch of networks around talent acquisition, talent management, talent attraction, recruitment, all of these different things. So you can hear the stories. You can have more live experience in terms of what's trending. What do I need to know if I want to become a recruiter? I want to become a talent acquisition person. I want to go into HR. What's the world saying about it? What are we talking about? What are some trends that would be really key, that if I went into an interview, I know what to expect. I know what to talk about, because I've been on top of, again, those trends and those conversations. So you want to know your audience. You really want to build a brand that focuses on things like keywords, right? You want to make sure your profile is complete. And luckily, LinkedIn has this progress bar where it will tell you, where you are at in the journey of building your profile, and you want to try to get to that 100%. Skills, experiences, right? As I've said, there's 700 million people on LinkedIn. So what are you doing to ensure that as soon as I click on your profile, I have a really good sense of your brand? I have a really good sense of those skill sets you're going to bring to this table, the experiences you have, the certifications, the qualifications, the endorsements, the recommendations, all of these various things that go into your brand and go into. And I think what's really important is, don't forget to be creative. It's your brand, be authentic. So you have many opportunities in LinkedIn. The picture you choose, the background image you choose, how you construct and portray in your story, in your summary section, how you want to talk about your experience. Be authentic, because that's what differentiates you. And as I've said, follow companies that you admire. Follow companies that, one day you maybe aspire to work towards or work at. And try to follow pathways as well, career paths. If someone has a blue check mark, right, kind of on Twitter, that's an influencer. That's someone who is certified through Twitter. Find those people in your field. Find those people. I think I followed, he's not there anymore, but like the senior vice president of talent acquisition from Google. I follow him because I want to know what he's working on. I want to know what amazing, he's a thought leader. So I want to know what his vision and his what he's looking at in terms of market research for talent, or what books he's writing or anything like that. Follow those folks. Understand again what's happening in your industry. And as I've mentioned, use the summary section. Like, use it really well. This is where you can introduce yourself to the world. Your resume can only do so much, right? Your resumes are very old school. They haven't changed all that much. I don't foresee them changing in the future. They're very formulaic. LinkedIn doesn't have to be that way. LinkedIn is almost like the professional version of Facebook. It can be one step more. It could be more creative. You have this license to use it to demonstrate your personality. So use the about section. You see here on the right-hand side, use it. And you can see under her name, under Emily's name, right? Recruiter turned career happiness coach, guiding job seekers through what it takes to be the top 1% of applicants. That's not a job title. That's an aspiration. That's her brand. That's what she does. So use it. Talk about who you are. You don't have to just put Emily, recruiter, Brad, talent acquisition strategist. It doesn't say much about me. It doesn't say anything actually at all. It just says what my job title is. So you'd want to use it. And then you take that about section and you really explore who you are. Highlight your skills, highlight your experiences. And I don't just mean your work experience. Celebrate your lived experience. Celebrate your community involvement. Celebrate what you've done as a volunteer to make this world a better place. A lot of organizations are looking at how do we view the candidate more holistically. We're not just saying, who are you from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? Because at the end of the day, while yes, you spend more time at work than you don't, what happens before and after work dramatically impacts what happens during work, positive and negative. And so it's so important that as an employer, we look at the holistic person. We look at that authentic person. If you feel safe enough to be your authentic person at work, I guarantee you will be more happy, more productive, and more engaged. So as a recruiter, as someone who recruits people for McMaster University, we recruit hundreds of jobs a year. When I am at that table talking to hiring managers, you absolutely bet that I'm sitting there saying, how are we going to construct a strategy to invite someone to be their authentic self? How are we going to ensure we're building a recruitment campaign that is welcoming and really shows a sense of belonging? And so if we're constructing a strategy like that and you've constructed a brand based on that, that is so much better in terms of alignment. When you have this like fake it till you make it approach, you will never be happy at work ever. And so I think it's important that you start with this. Start with building a profile that is reflective of who you are. Tell a story, right? Talk about who you are outside of work. I mean, of course, you also want to be professional and use your discretion, right? And you also don't necessarily want to disclose too much about something that is probably not appropriate in this context. LinkedIn is not Facebook, right? So you still want to ensure you're meeting those professional guidelines. In terms of a picture, it's not going to be you holding a glass of like sangria, unless you're you applying to be like a sommelier somewhere. Like, you want to be intentional, but also okay. Don't be afraid of the sales pitch, right? You're a salesperson. I'm a salesperson. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all salespeople. When you're putting a LinkedIn profile out there, it's a sales pitch, right? It's an advertisement. And I think it's really important to think about it that way. And if you ever don't know too much about advertising, go back and watch Mad Men. It can really give you a sense of how you construct a sales pitch. Invite the connection, right? That's what LinkedIn is. That's why LinkedIn has 700 million people, is connection. That's why it's different than Indeed. That's why it's different than job boards. It's because LinkedIn is a network of individuals who are a part of something, who want to be connected. So use that, right? Use that to your advantage. But be careful of buzzwords. I can tell you, as someone who has read thousands of resumes and thousands of LinkedIn pages, you can tell the difference between intentionality and someone who is overly synonym button on Word, or just thinks they're using buzzwords that they learned in a course. These are, according to LinkedIn, the most quote unquote overused buzzwords of 2022. So they did this survey, and I believe it was in the United Kingdom, so in the UK, and they scoured thousands and thousands and thousands of profiles, and these were the most overused buzzwords, which means people are using them as adjectives, right? It's just throw them in front of everything. And ironically, considering my bio has the word strategic in it, and specialized, and leadership. So I should take my own advice here, but you don't want to just use them. If you cannot prove it, do not use it. And I'll give you an example. We interviewed someone at Mac that in their resume, they introduced themselves again on their resume as a well sought out thought leader. So a thought leader, a celebrated thought leader in their field. So of course, my question was, it's a bold statement, being a thought leader. You have 3 years of experience post-university. So how do you know you're a thought leader? Who dedicated or designated you as a thought leader? What does that mean to you? And they froze because they thought, they either assumed they wouldn't be asked that question. So if we're going to use a buzzword like thought leadership, I know that's not on there, but that's a big one. Or I'm going to say that I'm an expert in my field, or I have a strong track record. That's the other one I hear, or I see a lot, strong track record. And then I usually ask people, how do you measure that? And they don't know what to say, because they haven't done the forethought of saying, if I'm going to say I have a track record of something, I better be able to prove it. So while I'm telling you to be authentic, while I'm telling you about brand, you have to be intentional. And this comes back to that authenticity part, because if you're using these terms and you're not able to prove it, then you've hurt your brand. You've hurt your credibility. So you want to ensure that if I'm infusing all these adjectives, be prepared to talk about it. Be prepared to talk about it. One way you can talk about it is through endorsements. Invite endorsements. If you work with people and you have good relationships with people, or you've collaborated with people, use the endorsement section. Get people to endorse these aspects of you. Because this tells me that, okay, so one of the buzzwords is leadership. Then I look and I'm like, wow, 50 people, 50 individual people endorsed you for leadership. That tells me you can back it up, that you identify as a leader, but so does 50 other people. Okay, great, right? That's proved. Let's chat about that a little bit more, or 50, strategic. That's another buzzword right there. Strategic's number one, but 46 people endorsed you. That's impressive. That's really impressive. So again, my point being is, if I'm going to try to build a profile and a brand based on these, and you should use words that catch people's eyes. I'm not telling you not to. Those are great words, those 10 words, but then back it up. Get people to back it up. And that's how you do it, through endorsements. Use endorsements, and then take endorsements one step further. Request recommendations. So endorsements give people viewing your profile this quick visual sense of what your brand is, but recommendations are that step further, right? It's a testimonial. It's someone who actually says, I observed this. I had an experience myself. I can give credibility to this claim that, Brad is a leader. So I've endorsed it, but now I'm going to put my name to it and I'm going to talk about it a little bit further. It's kind of like when you ask for a reference for work. If you're applying for a job and you ask for a reference, take it a step further and say, hey, can I throw this reference, or can you write me a recommendation on LinkedIn as well? It sort of digitizes your reference letter and it makes it more viewable. So don't be afraid, don't be afraid of taking the time and asking a trusted person who can actually account for something for a written testimonial. They're really, really powerful tools. So when a recruiter or a hiring manager or someone views your profile, it's giving me a pretty good picture of you as a potential candidate, and then even more as a potential employee, that we're really able to take a step back and say, wow, not only did they articulate their story really well and they highlighted that, in fact, they have a lot of leadership experience or they are strategic in their thinking, then we had 50 people endorse that thinking. They endorsed who they were. And then on top of that, they went and actually wrote a recommendation. It's really powerful. So I think everyone should think about that as they're building out their profiles, or if you already have a profile built, how you can maybe take it one step further, how you can evolve your profile to really meet that competitive landscape that we've been talking about. So I think I want to flip it on the other side and say, okay, you've done all of these great things. What does, recruiter over there or sourcer or hiring manager, how do they use LinkedIn? How does this actually benefit me? So this is what a recruiter tool looks like. So I can go on and all of these filters are searchable. So I can look up any job title I want. I can look up any location I want. I can look up any skill I want. I can look at people who used to work for certain companies. So I can write in Starbucks. I can look at when you graduated. While that's sort of an iffy thing to do, I think that's really for campus recruitment purposes. I can look at if people attended certain schools. So I can look up anyone who lists McMaster University as part of their profile. I can look up anyone who had a career path with a certain industry. And I can look up keywords. So going back to our emphasis on those keywords. And then all I have to do is hit go. And these numbers, you see, 4.2 million, that's not unrealistic. That's not just, to show, like, that's real. Like, you will find millions and millions of profiles. Because again, if I look up Canada as my location, it will search every single profile who lists Canada or Ontario or Toronto or Hamilton or California or San Francisco as part of who they are, whether they're from there or they worked there. And so that's now what I do. And then you'll see where it says save to a project or save. There's another tool that says save to pipeline. I can just keep on saving profiles, right? So Eric, Jeanette, John, I can click on their profiles. It comes up exactly how you constructed your profile. And I'll take a read. And I'll say, you know what? I'm hiring a senior accountant. So I look, okay, Eric, senior accountant, Jeanette, senior accountant, but looking for new opportunities. So then I'll think, okay, so Jeanette is job seeking. Jeanette's job seeking. Maybe I should engage in a conversation with Jeanette, given her interest in looking for a new opportunity. Save to a profile or save to a project. And then I'll go back to it, right? So it's this constant search of people. Again, it's like Google, but for people. And we can use all of these different things. There's so many tools at our disposal on LinkedIn on the recruiter side. And that's why it's important to have a profile that is up to date, that's managed really well, that contains all of the critical information that you need to have, because everything you do on there is searchable. Everything. InMail Messages. It's a tool that you have and I have at our disposal. But I will tell you this, as someone who receives dozens of InMail messages a day, I don't always look at them. I don't look at them if I can automatically tell it's just a job seeker. They see my name and they see my job title and they think, oh, this, hey, help me get a job at Mac. I'm probably not going to engage, right? So you want to make sure that if you are InMail messaging someone from an organization, not only do you have to make sure it's the right person. I get InMail messaged all the time, be like, oh, there's this job in social science. Who's the hiring manager? Can you tell me? No, I mean, I don't have the time to go on our directory and find every single person hiring. So you want to make sure you do your homework first. Don't just spam someone that has the term recruitment in their title. Again, Mac hires probably a couple hundred jobs a year. I'm not involved in every single one of them, right? I'm only one person. So you want to be strategic. And so what I recommend first and foremost is it's relevant and it's personalized. Be intentional about why you're using an InMail message. If I'm going to go so far as to message you, then put the effort into it. Really ensure it's the right person, it's relevant information, it's personalized, okay? Start by looking at some profiles, right? Start by understanding profiles. Now, again, thinking about new LinkedIn features, I can personally change my profile picture to say hiring. So, okay, maybe it is more appropriate that you reach out to me because I've indicated to you I'm hiring. So message me, right? Because I'm the one that's advertised to that. And then, of course, don't spam. Don't send, 50 messages a day every day. Intentional. It's the same advice I give to the talent acquisition team at McMaster. Don't spam job seekers. Be intentional with your messaging. There is nothing more annoying than getting a message from a recruiter saying, oh, hey, Brad, we saw your profile. We think you'd be really great for this. And I open it up and it's, an accountant. I couldn't add if you literally paid me to. I am horrible at math. So I look at that and think, where in my profile did I indicate that I should be an accountant? Nowhere. So ignore, delete, and it's a damaging of your brand because I think you're just spamming everyone that you could find. So it can damage your brand. So really make sure you're intentional, it's personalized, and it's to the right person. How do we find out about all of that? This is really important, I think, is most industry or most organizations, I know this is 2021, but June, most organizations put a lot of effort, I think I said this, into their profiles. Spend the time on people, on their pages, follow them. What are they posting? What stories are they posting? What hashtags are they using? So if you go on McMaster, a lot of ours is about alumni. A lot of ours is about the tremendous work that we've been doing in health impact research, around COVID-19, around the community. That's part of our strategic initiatives. So if you go now into job seeking at McMaster, you should have pretty good insight into what we're working on strategically, what we've been focusing on in terms of accomplishments, and then how do you infuse that into your job search. So follow companies, spend some time. The only thing I'll say here is, this is just some data from last year, but the story tells the same, is we get millions of views and clicks, right? We can find everything is measurable. Everything is a data point. So again, it's around intentionality because 1.3 million people viewed a job, 22,000 in 30 days. So they're high numbers. And so how do we engage with you? And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll open it up to any questions people have, but this is just some general recruitment advice that I think I could usually pass on to people, is preparation. Don't apply for a job unless you've done your homework, unless you know in and out about that company, their values, their strategic initiatives. Customize your resume to that. As it says, different resumes, Do not use the same resume to apply for every job. It is extremely evident. I was on a call. We were doing a training this morning with hiring managers and faculty leaders. There was about 90 people on the call. And I asked the question to all 90 people, what's the most frustrating thing you experienced today with resumes? The number one thing they all said was receiving generic resumes. Receiving generic resumes and receiving cover letters that were clearly not thought out. So if they're frustrated by that and you're doing it, you're not moving on in your job search, not even in the slightest. You will automatically be rejected. And I think the point being is everything you put on a resume, everything you put on a cover letter must align with the job. Don't ever underestimate the power of that, right? We're receiving hundreds and hundreds of resumes. And so if 99 of them are generic and yours is specific, you're already at the top of the pile. Be authentic, be yourself, be who you are. Don't fake it at an interview. Talk about your lived experience, and really embrace your community involvement. It's so important that you're going through your job process, your job seeking process, being authentic. And then why you? Always focus on that, right? What do you bring to the table? What's important about you? Why you? Why do you want this job? And so I'll leave it at that. Is there any questions? Okay. If I'm not seeing any questions, I guess, Jill, I'm handing it back to you.
Yeah, I was just typing a question that I often get. Here I am. I often get, I'm working with alumni, so I wonder if I could just take the question spot for a sec. So one of the things that you talked a lot about branding, which was really, really super important, and we talk about that a lot. I think one of the concerns, I often hear from very new grads, say if they're not quite sure what career direction they're kind of heading, what sort of advice do you give for like those folks that are just transitioning into the professional world and still sort of figuring things out? Maybe they have a few options that they're kind of playing with or toying with.
Yeah, I mean, we all go through that. I mean, you go through that journey as a new grad, but you also might go through that journey multiple times throughout your life. Sometimes you have to go horizontal to go vertical. Sometimes you got to go backwards to go forward. There's going to be a lot of potential changes. My recommendation is always, first and foremost, take a step back and say, what am I truly passionate about? Is there a cause? Is there a topic? Is there a company? Is there something that I'm truly passionate about? And then if you identify something, you love creative writing, you're really passionate about reading, whatever it is, find a way to now match that passion with a potential career path. So again, if you're passionate about reading, what avenues can you take, whether it's in sales around working for Chapter or Indigo? Is there something in terms you can work with big publishing houses? There's a lot of different things you can do once you take the time to identify that passion. Am I passionate about continuing my education? Can I look at master's programs, PhD programs? I think there's a lot of steps you can take, but what you have to do first is root that in your passion. And then what I also do, or what I did in my life, was once I identified my passion. Now, I was very blessed. I had a dad who was in HR. And so I was very quickly able to identify that as a really interesting field. So that's another thing. Is there someone out there doing a job that's always been interesting to you that you want to explore a bit further, whether you know them personally, like a parent, a friend, or someone you see on LinkedIn? You're on LinkedIn, you're looking, and that's what I did. I kind of looked up different companies that I always thought were really interesting. I looked at the people page, which just lists all the employees, and I thought, wow, senior vice president of talent acquisition. So interesting. What is that? What does that even mean? How do you get there? What are the things that they talk about? And then start to build this sort of virtual career path in your mind. What skill sets do I need to ascertain? What maybe certificates or further education do I need to pursue? What networks should I join? But I truly think, my dad always used to say this: you have to view your career as an investment, because you are going to work for about 40 years. So if you think about your life, you're going to work for at least 50% of it. If you look at the average life expectancy. And so to me, that sounds daunting, but 40 years, if I'm going to work for 40 years, I'm going to make sure that I'm passionate about what I'm doing. That's me personally. And I tried to put things in place that I had that luxury, like going to university, which opened up doors for me. So I think root your career path, or root your research into your career path in passion.
That's really good advice. Thank you. And certainly, like, there's a lot of value to be had in talking to people in the field and so on. So just take that opportunity to pop in our mentorship program that we have. So people are welcome to create an account on there and then connect with McMaster, mostly alumni and some community partners, about what they do. So that can be really helpful. Now it looks like there's been a couple questions coming into
Sure.
the chat, so thank you for those. So Carrie is wondering if you can comment on the importance of the skills section in LinkedIn.
Yeah. I see you came late in this session. Absolutely not a problem. So the skills are very important, right? And they're important for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it gives me an indication of what you feel are your transferable skill sets. And when we're looking at McMaster's recruitment strategies, something we're really coaching hiring managers on is focusing on recruiting for skill, not necessarily experience. And why do I say that? We know that skill sets are more transferable from job to job to job than experiences. And if you think about your own lives, what you do in one job may not work in another job, because a lot of it's based on the context. What team am I on? Who's my manager? What autonomy do I have? What software am I using? So many factors go into quote unquote experience. But a skill is a skill. And you can flex that skill in different ways. And you can talk about how you've successfully utilized a skill in a certain context. So I would say the skill section is very important. But again, I add that you need to go a step further, is you identify your skills, but you do your best to invite endorsements. Get other folks to endorse your skill sets. Because just because you self-identified a skill, that's sort of like 33%. The next 33% is that endorsement, and then the final 33% is that testimonial. So I think you want to try to use all three holistically.
That's really good advice. I really like that multi-pronged approach and thinking about like what's okay, what's good, and what's better.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's another question here from Skylar. So they ask about how you would recommend creating a specifically branded profile while not excluding potential opportunities across different fields.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes back to your first question, Jill, around the figuring out your career path. If you know what you want to pursue based on whatever sort of exercise you went through, if you're very clear in what you want to pursue, then I think you tailor your profile towards that. If you don't know and you're still really exploring a lot of options, yes, you would probably want to have a profile that might be a little bit more broad. I think you still utilize the sections the way we discussed it, but you still follow specific companies, you still follow specific hashtags, you should still join certain networks, but maybe your messaging is that you are open to exploring a lot of different opportunities versus, yes, being a little bit more intentional. So I think, again, it goes back to, where are you in your own journey? Do you know what you want to pursue, or are you still very much trying to understand that? And then you would use LinkedIn, and you would customize your LinkedIn brand based on that.
Gotcha. So,
And it's always open to change, right? Nothing's set in stone. So I'm not suggesting that if you know you want to be X, you do everything there and that's where you put all your eggs. That's your only basket. Things always change. Like life changes. Like think about the last 3 years. It's been it's been very influential in how we've done everything. Like everything is different now than it was in April, even in February of 2020. So don't feel like anything is ever set in stone. You can rebrand yourself as much as you'd like.
yeah, I think that's a really good reminder that it sounds like what you're suggesting is it's just, even if you don't know exactly, it's better to get on LinkedIn, to start getting familiar with it, to
Yeah,
start building a preference, to start building a professional network, getting those endorsements. And then, as things change or alter with career direction, then you can adjust or pivot like your online profile
absolutely.
from there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Skylar said, thank you. So that's great. The other question that often comes up is regarding the jobs profile on LinkedIn when folks are conducting their actual job search on LinkedIn. What are your thoughts on how some of the job postings have the quick apply button where you just yeah, that compared, because you talked a lot about and certainly what we suggest too is like customized application. So I'm curious on how you negotiate the two of those types of applications.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Now, even with a quick apply, you often have an opportunity to attach a subsequent resume. So the quick apply function, what I will see is your LinkedIn profile plus a resume. So, obviously you're probably not going to edit your LinkedIn profile every single time you want to apply for a job. But you absolutely can customize your resume every time you want to apply for a job. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to have a different resume for every job you apply to. So what I personally do is I have like a master resume that's like 40,000 pages long because it's just anything and everything I've ever accomplished in my entire life is on that page. And then what I do is when I want to apply for a job, whether I see it on LinkedIn, Indeed, or otherwise, I take bits and pieces of that master resume and I construct a very intentional, specific resume for that job. And you can upload as many resumes as you want. Right? You can keep on like replacing the resume. So your LinkedIn page likely won't change. I mean, it should evolve as you evolve. It should grow and change as you grow and change. When you get a new job, a new certificate, a new skill, like it's a living document, really. Your LinkedIn should reflect where you are today, not necessarily where you were yesterday. And so your LinkedIn might be a little bit more generic, or sorry, a little bit more all encompassing, and that's okay. We always say, resume should be 2 to 3 pages. There is no real hard, fast rule for LinkedIn because I don't necessarily need to read every single detail on LinkedIn if I'm going to read your resume or vice versa. So I think what I would recommend is keep your profile as a living document. You grow it, you nurture it, you feed it, all of that fun stuff. And then your resume should be carefully constructed to the job you're applying.
Okay. And so it looks like there's a follow-up question, similarly related, but if you would recommend applying through LinkedIn if there's an option, or the company website. Does it make any difference, or should you do both? What are your thoughts on that?
So good question. Now, if you're searching for a job on LinkedIn, as an employer, on the back end of LinkedIn, I have 2 choices. I can set it up that it redirects you to a career site, or I can set it up that you apply right on LinkedIn. As a company, whichever you choose to set it up, I mean, that's how they've chosen. So if you shouldn't feel like you're disadvantaged one way or another because the company intentionally set it up to do one thing or another. So at McMaster, if you go on our LinkedIn and find jobs, you will be redirected to our internal website or our corporate website, the careers at McMaster. So you would apply through that. If it's a quick apply and you apply right on LinkedIn, you've got to assume that that's what they want you to do. So I'm not sure that it really matters one way or the other. The thing I could tell you though, I mean, if an organization is utilizing things like resume reading technology, they're likely going to funnel you to their website anyway. So I don't think it matters. I don't think it should matter. But again, what I would recommend is you're going to go on their website anyway to do your research. You're going to go on their website. You're going to, what's their strategic plan? What's their values and culture? What are they working on? You're going to do your research. So if you're there, I mean, you could do it there. I mean, both LinkedIn and most career sites have the ability to sort of follow job searches. You can set up alerts. So if you want an alert specifically for Starbucks, then maybe do it through their website and set up your job alerts through their website. That way you're not relying exclusively on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn also has the opportunity to do the exact same thing. Typically with LinkedIn, you can set up broader job alerts. So you can set up an alert that anytime like human resources or talent acquisition is posted, you get an alert. Same thing for companies. So, I mean, it's really, I don't know that one advantages you over another. Again, I think if the company has set it up that you're redirected, you won't have a choice. If the company sets it up that the quick apply is just on LinkedIn, then just do it on LinkedIn.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Just want to check in with everyone on the call to see, is there any other questions or areas of clarification that you'd like to take this opportunity to ask Brad? Should mention this is a really good opportunity to be talking face to face with someone who sees so many applications. Okay. Well, that tells me that you did a very comprehensive job, Brad. So thank you.
Perfect.
I think
You're so very welcome.
I totally appreciate every time you come in and share your expertise of what it looks like on the other side. And I think the more we can do that for folks that job seek, the more important it is, because it just shows everybody, how important it is really to do all of those things, do all of the things, customize your resume, make
Absolutely.
sure it goes through the reading, put your LinkedIn up. There's always going to be, people who say like, who offer a contradictory opinion, but to hear it again, just, as that it is so important, that's really great. Actually, on that note, sorry, just see another question come in, and from William. We wonder, what are your thoughts on Indeed, Glassdoor, and websites like that?
Yeah, so I mean, full transparency, I used to work for Indeed, so I always want people to know that. I think Indeed as a job search engine, or Indeed from like their company reviews section? Just for clarity, William. I don't know if you can answer that. Oh, job search. Okay. So yeah, I mean, for the job search function, Indeed is the largest job board currently. It's the most used in Canada. It's minus in Quebec. It's the most used in the United States, and in the vast majority of the world it's the number one. So right now you've got to assume that because of that, most jobs are available on Indeed. So if you're doing your job search, if you're starting out your job search, my first two go-tos would be Indeed and LinkedIn. You're likely going to see almost every single job out there on both of those websites. So yeah, I would use it. Absolutely. They're both free to create profiles. They both have extensive advanced filter options. They both allow for a lot of safe searches, for career alerts. Glassdoor, I would always recommend you visit Glassdoor. If we think about what Glassdoor intentionally is it's a way that you can kind of pull back the curtain and understand more about an employer. The same thing with Indeed company reviews. Those do not get to be edited or monitored by by the company. So what If you go to Glassdoor and look up McMaster University, yeah, I create a profile, right? So I create a landing page about us, but I have no control over what people say about us. You cannot edit it, right? It is 100% authentic based on the job seeker experience. So you get to see how people rate us, how people rate our current leader, our president, or the president of the university. You get to see how they rate things like how their interview was. You get to leave comments about him. It's a really great unfiltered way of understanding life at an organization. So I would absolutely recommend going onto Glassdoor. Now, Glassdoor is owned by Indeed, and so oftentimes you might see similar information because, again, they feed each other, but 100% recommend it. LinkedIn, they don't really have that feature. They don't really have a feature where people can go and like literally rate an employer. They can't really leave unfiltered comments about an employer, whereas you can on Glassdoor and you can on Indeed. So if you are in a jobs, what we call sort of like this job search routine, I would add all three to my routine. Start on Indeed, find a job that you like, go on LinkedIn, do some research, go on Glassdoor and see what people are saying about them. Yeah, it's a great process.
Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. And I think that probably is the last question that we'll have
Sure.
time to take today. But I want to thank everyone for their questions and their participation. And of course, Brad, thank you so much for your insights. Again, I can't stress that enough. We want to welcome everyone as well to and Brad, you're welcome to attend if you like as well. We have Hey Sun Moon joining us at 3:30 for her session on coaching A to Z, the extraordinary use of ordinary words. So I put a live link in the chat. So please feel free to join us in that one. It should be a really another great presentation to sort of end up our Life After Mac conference today. So I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon and have a great hopefully a great session next. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brad. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.